dentist whom some parents want to strangle. A dentist accused of intentionally inflicting pain and torturing children to satisfy deviant, sadistic appetites. All this revealed in court documents.
I can't personally imagine a situation where there would be a worse dentist in America.
Many of his little patients would have to agree. What do you think I need to know about this guy?
That he hurted me, and I was yelling for my mom, but he wouldn't let my mom and my dad in, and that he choked me.
Thomas, you say the dentist punched you?
Yeah.
So what was the truth?
He threw me, they choked me, and they sat on me.
These are just 3 of the 81 children attorney John Phillips is representing.
When you put 81 children side by side and you measure the level of consistency, it's off the charts.
Off the charts angry is what the mothers have become.
A monster. Sick, the individual who gets off on hurting young victims who are helpless.
This is the dentist they are all complaining about, Dr. Howard Schneider of Jacksonville, Florida. Some of Dr. Schneider's harshest critics say he ran a little shop of horrors that disfigured children and robbed them of their smiles. The 78-year-old pediatric dentist has been threatened with legal action by more than 100 families represented by 2 different law firms. One alleging professional malpractice, the other accusing him of a number of terrible things, including battery, false imprisonment, and intentional abuse. In one suit, Schneider's practice was called a house of horrors. Schneider's attorney fights back and says the allegations are meant to embarrass and harass his client.
The more procedures, the more billings.
Schneider is accused of making millions off unnecessary dental work on the baby teeth of poor and disabled children.
Bilking the taxpayer out of millions of dollars, one baby tooth at a time. Wow, that's a lot of teeth to pay for a grand piano.
John Phillips says Schneider made millions from Medicaid and used the money to live a lavish lifestyle. The Schneider's mansion was even splashed across the pages of Jacksonville magazine.
I think he must have put the Tooth Fairy out of business in Jacksonville.
Court papers claim Schneider would put children through painful procedures that were totally unnecessary just to pull money out of Medicaid.
Kids would go in for caps, and 2 months later they'd have those same teeth that were capped extracted.
Schneider's lawyer maintains all the procedures were medically necessary. Yet the family's attorney, John Phillips, showed me bag after bag filled with children's teeth, which he says didn't need any work. Healthy baby teeth that should have fallen out naturally. All these teeth were yanked out.
7 teeth, 4 teeth, 8 teeth.
I do believe it was very unnecessary that he kept all 14 teeth.
Shireen Christopher's son, Zion, is the one you hear screaming in this video.
My son was screaming about 10 minutes.
Poor little Zion went in for just 1 cap on a decaying tooth and came out with a mouth full of metal.
I started videotaping because I felt something was wrong with the procedure. I'm not sure if Dr. Schneider did realize that I was videotaping.
As horrific as it is to listen to Zion screaming, imagine if you could not hear your child screaming for help.
All the other hearing parents could hear what was going on, and I just sat there clueless.
Amanda Barry and Nicholas Balzer are deaf, and they could not hear their son Dominic screaming in the dentist chair. They couldn't come in the room.
Yeah.
And you would have wanted your mommy and your daddy there.
Yeah, I was screaming for my mom.
You were? Mommy couldn't hear you.
No, she's deaf.
With the help of a sign language interpreter, the parents told me their horror story. Dominic went in to have 1 tooth extracted.
Instead of pulling that, he put a cap on just to cover it. And it was so dirty underneath.
It was infected.
It's still dirty. Yes, it was badly infected.
They say Schneider pulled Dominic's front teeth instead.
Once he woke up and was done, Dominic came out of the room and he was walking like he was drunk. And so I picked him up and held him in my arms. But then when I pulled the gauze out of his mouth, his front teeth were missing.
How did he treat you?
Bad. my teeth out and he choked me.
Can you show me what he did to yourself? Like,
Like,
he was squeezing it
yeah, hard.
real hard? That must have been scary.
My face was red.
When Dominic's mother told me how she really felt about Dr. Schneider, we didn't need an interpreter.
Yes, he's a monster.
How do you say monster? If so many thought Schneider was a monster after 47 years in practice, why did parents keep taking their children to him? Next, the shocking threats from the dentist whom parents say made them keep their mouths shut.
He threatens you with the law.
Now, Anna Garcia is here with our special investigation.
Matt, the man at the center of this controversy is pediatric dentist Dr. Howard Schneider, and he is accused of harming nearly 100 of his young patients. Dr. Howard Schneider has been called the worst dentist in America and a monster by more than 100 parents. This Florida pediatric dentist is accused of torturing children in his chair and doing unnecessary dental work to milk Medicaid out of millions. Schneider denies all the allegations, but Christopher Rousseau says he witnessed the torture firsthand on his son CJ.
They're really just roughing him up, forcing him out shut, making his mouth bleed. Then they take him back from there over to a room to clean his mouth and to take out a rotten tooth, to drill it out and give him a crown.
14-year-old CJ is blind and deaf, can't talk, and has several other physical limitations. But his dad says CJ clearly communicated his pain.
Not one time did they give him anything for pain medicine.
What? They didn't give him pain medicine when they drilled?
Not once. And then when he went to do the crown, again, no pain medicine. And then that's where I just had a fit.
Rousseau says he confronted Dr. Schneider, and the dentist pushed back.
Well, he says that I have no right. Basically, my son's going to come to him no matter what. If I don't bring my son to the dentist, Children's and Families will come, arrest me. He threatens you with the law.
Attorney John Phillips represents the Rousseaus and 80 other families claiming malpractice. So he threatened the parents if they challenged him, right?
Certainly. I'll call DCF on you.
DCF is the Department of Children and Families, which investigates child welfare.
And one by one, he would intimidate parents.
Phillips says parents of children with special needs had nowhere else to turn because Schneider was on Florida's Medicaid referral list as a dentist who specialized in children with disabilities. Christopher Rousseau says he didn't have a choice.
Jacksonville set up where the only dentist that takes pediatrics with disability is Dr. Schneider. There is no other dentist you can send him to. The only other place you can call is Gainesville, and they have almost a year-long waiting list.
And that's an hour and a half away.
At least.
Schneider became, Medicaid's endorsed guy here in town.
Wanna see?
This is 11-year-old Thomas Denise and his service dog Crosby. Thomas is autistic and has epilepsy, yet Dr. Schneider didn't allow his mother or his service dog to be by his side in the exam room. So you're all by yourself. Susan Denise says Thomas was severely traumatized by being restrained in something called a papoose board. Thomas panicked, especially when Schneider sprayed water in his mouth.
He tried to drown me.
What were you scared of?
He was gonna hurt me.
Thomas started getting anxious during our interview as he recounted what happened to him. So we stopped a few times to let Crosby do what he does best, calm a little boy. After the break, Thomas told me the rest of what happened.
He punched me on the shoulder and I didn't like it.
Turns out Thomas was not the only child restrained in a papoose board without parental permission. Dominic and Zion were too. Papoose boards are used in pediatric dentistry in certain cases, but dentists must get the parents' permission. Phillips says children were routinely restrained so the dentist could work faster and get more patients in the door, like a factory.
If you're doing this for every procedure, it's again unwarranted, abusive dentistry.
So how is it possible all of these alleged abuses could have gone on for decades without an uproar? Were parents that scared? Or did the system look the other way? Or perhaps a little of both?
I've heard that for years parents have complained to different people, but nobody did anything. So it's as if they gave them a license to go abuse and hurt and maim kids.
There was something going on inside this dentist's office because a review of police records reveals the cops were called here almost 200 times over the last 20 years for a variety of problems, complaints, vandalism, arguments, even a death threat against the dentist. Crime Watch Daily searched Florida court records, and we found a lawsuit from 1996 that sounds eerily similar to the complaints we are hearing today. A mother sued Schneider for $15,000 for unnecessary dental treatment and disfigurement of her 5-year-old son. The case was settled, and Schneider's insurance company paid out $7,500.
There's been a series of complaints about Dr. Schneider, but they never went anywhere.
A check of the Florida Department of Health shows that as recently as April of 2015, the Department of Health insisted Dr. Howard Schneider has a clear and active license with no public complaints or discipline on file. How could that be?
30.
Well, that all changed when one mother got mad as hell and went on a rant on Facebook.
He messed with the wrong baby. That's what he did.
Next, how the power of social media gave angry moms the tool to organize and bring down a man who they say hurt their children.
Dangerous chemicals in your clothes.
It's believed that the dentist could still be in business today if it weren't for one mom who had enough. Dr. Howard Schneider is a well-known dentist in Jacksonville, Florida, who many now call a monster. Schneider is accused of sadistic serial child abuse for intentionally inflicting pain on his little patients. He's made millions off Medicaid by treating, or some say mistreating and abusing, poor and disabled children by doing unneeded dental work.
Dr. Schneider is the worst dentist in America that I've ever seen.
After 47 years in practice, Dr. Schneider finally messed with the wrong mom.
Because then when I got turned down by the police, it just made me even more angry. And I was like, well, if they can't hold me, then I'm just going to put matters into my own hands.
And what she took into her own hands was Dr. Schneider's very own throat. What got Brandy Motley so fighting mad? This. These are photos of her daughter Brielle right after an appointment with Dr. Schneider in December of 2014. Brandy was told there had been an accident.
That's when I seen Brielle on the papoose board, hyperventilating and blood everywhere.
What condition was she in?
Well, she was hyperventilating, screaming, crying. She had a big bruise on her head, and I got her in the car, and that's when she pulled her gauze out, and I noticed all of her teeth were missing. And that's when she told me, Mommy, they're lying to you, and she told me what happened.
Dr. Schneider pulled 8 baby teeth, even though Brielle's mom claims she didn't even have one cavity. 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom.
All of her front teeth and all of her bottom front teeth were gone. All she had was jaw teeth.
Brandy called police and took Brielle straight to the hospital.
Well, I had the police meet me there, and then they called DCF, and that's when they started examining her, and that's when they pointed out the handprints on her neck.
Brielle later told her mom she had been choked. She also had a goose egg on her forehead the size of a golf ball. How'd you get that bump?
She threw me on the ground.
The hospital discovered 5-year-old Brielle actually suffered a facial fracture.
So where was the fracture?
It was from her nose to her eye socket, all on the same side on the right side.
Is it repaired yet?
Yeah, they said it would grow back.
Apparently, that was not enough for police to investigate, but they told Brandy they would forward the case to the Department of Health.
Now I'm mad because the police can't do anything.
Brandy says she called several lawyers, but they wouldn't take her case.
It's frustrating.
Why do you blame yourself?
I should have seen the red flags.
So Brandy went on Facebook and let it all out.
And I posted her pictures along with what happened that day.
What was the reaction?
It happened really fast. Within an hour, it was already shared over 2,000 times, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing. It was big.
Brandy's Facebook page about Dr. Schneider, which now has more than 14,000 supporters, brought other parents out of the shadows.
We've seen a thing on Facebook where they were having a meeting at the town hall.
And then I realized that Thomas was not the only child. I was like, holy crud, what's going on with this guy?
Brandy organized the Mad Moms, and they started protesting Dr. Schneider's office every day for several weeks. The more they protested, the more news spread, and tempers flared. Here, our affiliate in Jacksonville, Florida, actually catches Brandy Motley lunging at Dr. Schneider after he tells the moms to leave his office.
I actually heard it on the news.
That's when Grandma sprang into action and joined the protest.
I pulled right up. Yes, I am finally going to be heard. Finally. So happy.
Their story is all too familiar. Little Dariah went in for 2 cavities, and she came out with a mouth full of caps.
We filed a complaint against him.
Deja Smith says no one would take her complaint seriously.
I tried to get help. I tried to get heard. Nobody wanted to listen to me. And it's just like, finally.
Yes.
Years later, but finally.
Finally, indeed. After weeks of protest last May, Dr. Schneider gave up. He voluntarily relinquished his license to practice and shut down his office. But that was still not enough. The chorus of irate moms finally got the attention of state investigators, the ones who they say ignored their previous complaints.
The Attorney General's office called my home.
We tried to talk to Dr. Schneider, but he barked at our producer and told Crime Watch Daily to get off his property. Then he called the cops on us. 6 months after the Mad Moms shut down the alleged Little Shop of Horrors, Dr. Howard Schneider was arrested and charged with 11 counts of Medicaid fraud for performing procedures without parental consent and submitting unauthorized claims for Medicaid reimbursement.
The handcuffs made me smile. Yes, ma'am.
Schneider was booked and released on a $110,000 bond. The Florida Attorney General's office would not talk to us about the ongoing investigation.
When Dr. Schneider got arrested, it made me so happy.
It's not just Schneider who's in trouble with the law. His former dental assistant, Latosha Bevel-Hilsman, seen here trying to protect Schneider, has been charged with practicing dentistry without a license. We went looking for her, but she wasn't home.
Latosha? He needs to be punished.
And sitting in jail is a relief to me.
The punishment has begun. Schneider's office is closed. His beautiful mansion is in foreclosure, and he and his wife have filed for divorce, though there's speculation that may have been done to protect assets.
In the last 5 years before his practice was shut down, he had made $4-point-something million just from Medicaid.
Dr. Schneider denies the allegations and would not talk to us. His attorney sent us this statement. It is the practice of my law firm to try cases in the courtroom, as I have found that soundbite journalism is not conducive to the discovery of truth. For this reason, my client and I respectfully decline your offered opportunity to participate in a process which has heretofore been anything but fair and balanced. But the angry moms are not done yet. They vow to take their fight to court until every child gets justice. Crime Watch Daily was with the Mad Moms waiting at the courthouse for his latest hearing, but Jacksonville's most notorious dentist never showed.
Oh, I'll be here every time, regardless if he shows or he doesn't show.
He claims he had car trouble. We don't know.
The Mad Moms can add another victory to their list not long after we did our interviews. The families reached a settlement agreement with Dr. Schneider, the terms of which are confidential. In the meantime, several of the children have begun treatments with new dentists to restore their smiles.
So many young victims. The settlement's one thing, but they could well have dental problems lasting into their adult life.
Oh, absolutely, because we don't know what's going to happen when the adult teeth come in. It could be years before we know what the real damage has been.
I want to ask you about Dr. Schneider. He's closed down his business.
Yep.
Where is he now?
Well, he appears to still be living the life, Matt. He is in a luxury retirement community, not far from where he was living. But his problems aren't over yet because new families have come forward with new allegations, so we expect more cases against him.
It's an extraordinary case, that's for sure. Thank you for the update, Anna. We will, of course, stay on top of this case and bring you the very latest when Dr. Schneider has his day in court.
Still to come.